Okay, we are
I
live
think we're
here.
live.
Whoa, Greg, you're still at the conference.
Hey guys, yeah.
Nice.
Still
What?
going on. It's great. We're playing
Yeah.
we're playing freeze tag, and I beat everybody. So I just was running around. I got everybody kind of frozen right now. So when the broadcast is done, I'll go unfreeze them, and yeah, it's tons of fun here playing.
They have crazy skills with that game. I don't. They're not even blinking.
They're veterinarians, right? They're type A. They want to win.
That's true. Well, I brought my badge to come in the conference because today we're going to be talking about conferences, veterinary conferences. I think we've all now been to at least one. I know I saw Chris and Dave at VMX, and then I know Sammy and Greg have a lot of experience with them, at least going to meetings and expos, and at least in the last few years, I want to get their ideas on how things are changing, what's going on right and what's going on wrong about big conferences, and kind of get an idea how we all feel about what's going on with them. And we have our marketing genius Chris Tremblay, product developer, and just a VetMed social bug, the most liked person in the world, David Diefenbach. And then veterinarian writer Sammy Morishi, and our veterinarian cartoonist Greg Bishop here as well, and me, to kind of talk a little bit about our experiences with veterinary conferences. And Greg, since you're still there, living it right now as we speak, how do you feel about these big conferences? What's your take on what's going on?
Wide range of emotion at these things. I mean, it's so fun. I love going to these conferences. I love the amount of information that you can get in the short time span. Seeing a dynamic speaker explain something and kind of open up your mind. Reviewing stuff is fantastic and amazing, and it also just has, in addition to all the best of veterinary medicine, it has the worst too. There's, obnoxious, aggressive marketing. There's big corporations just saying a bunch of bogus BS, and you got to deal with that. But you get to see it all, and it's just it's fun. And there's partying, and there's social activities, and there's games, and you see some just wacky, fun stuff. So I have a great time. The last one I went to was AVMA in DC this last summer. I brought my sketchbook. I sketched out some cartoons of people hanging out, and I went to Bill's talk, and I gave Dave this big Sasquatch hug. So it was it's a blast. I love it. It's insane and exhausting, but tons of fun.
Cool. Sammy, you have any chance to go to any of them last year?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I didn't hear you. Yeah, I was also at AVMA.
Okay.
I was also at AVMA, and last year I also went to Veterinary Leadership Conference at the start of the year, which is a super nice conference. I don't know if you guys have been, but it's nice in that it's much smaller than the big expos, big conferences, even much smaller than AVMA convention. And it's a good way to also get involved in other elements of vet med, such as
what?
Hello?
Oh, you're there.
Such as like the organized side of vet med. So because it's a smaller conference, the hack meetings and the district caucus and all the different policy meetings and the House of Delegate meetings align with the conference. So you can actually participate in those, which I find super nice because I'm really interested in that. And because it's a much smaller conference, it's much more intimate. So you don't see as many people, but you have, I think, a nice, more intimate experience with the people that you do see.
Do you feel like the CE they provide is it's actually a little different level, like a higher level CE, or
it's
how does
mostly
that compare to
leadership content? So less medical content, I would say, more leadership content, practice management, communication, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And the AVMA as well, was more towards leadership?
AVMA convention has I was surprised. So I have the benefit, I guess, I stepped away from the American veterinary scene for 6 years when I was living in Europe. And then we had COVID as well. So I kind of had a before and after snapshot of how AVMA convention has grown and evolved over the past decade. And I was shocked when I went in July how much it had grown. It's at least doubled in size.
Wow.
I was a little bit overwhelmed. It's not as obviously as big as like WVC or VMX, but I was surprised at how much it had grown.
Sammy, were you there when they had the live marching band marching through the convention hall?
No.
It was alarming. They literally marched through the
Alarming.
They were announcing the opening of the exhibit hall one day, but it was chaos. It was just loud.
I missed the announcement of it as well. I was trying to scrounge together some CEs.
They went for a while.
Crazy.
Too. I feel like it was like a couple hours of you just were like
bang, bang, bang. Yeah.
There, yeah.
Where was the marching band from?
They were somewhere from the DC, Baltimore area, somewhere in the metro area. So they were very energetic, very, very loud, and very non-veterinary. So it was, everyone was just watching and in amazement saying, "Oh, what's next? Right? What's the big announcement here?" And they were just opening the exhibit hall.
God, wow. They do that nowadays. Yeah. You see a bunch of people with whistles and everybody running around trying to run away. You see something like that.
Yeah, right.
That's cool. I would like to visit that one day. I tend to do the bigger conferences because they pay for me to go. Yeah. I'm a GP associate, so I'm just kind of like have the one little window to go to like the one conference, and they pay for it. So for me, it's more like about the classes and the CE and coming back with some pearls at least, and not just like a hangover. But I that's just kind of like how I pick the conferences, and I think that there's so much innovation in those bigger ones and new products and things like that. So I like bringing that back as well. I do want to pick Dave's brain because Dave, you've been going to these conferences for a long time. Yeah. I wanna get your idea of like VMX, 5-10 years ago before this year. Like what are you noticing different?
Well, yeah. First, I'll say that when you're early in your marketing career, you desperately want to go to these shows, and you get this FOMO for not going, and then you hit a point where you just don't want to go anymore. But the big conferences are nice because they're anchored to locations where you go and you know everyone. So when you said I'm super social, I'm not super social. I just know people from 20 years of my career, and I don't do the meetings I used to. I just go there intentionally to sometimes connect with people randomly, like Greg, but sometimes very intentionally just to see my friends. But the VMX conference used to be NAVC, used to be in a small, intimate, I shouldn't call it small, the Gaylord Palms Hotel. The atmosphere was, I probably got a quarter of the amount of steps in a conference than I do now. It was generally a much smaller exhibit hall. The Marriott, you took a bus ride over, hosted the CE. So there was, most of the business happened over at the Gaylord Palms. You rarely left the hotel suite. And then a couple of years ago, it went to the Orange County Convention Center, which we all know now is just enormous, usually hosting a golf summit at the same time. It's just exponentially larger now. And so I didn't measure my steps this year, but we walk a lot. I only spent about.
I felt that in my feet. Coming back, I was like, whoa, yeah. I like 3 or 4 days. I was like, what the heck? Like my feet really hurt. I don't
bring my running shoes to run when I'm at these conferences because I got plenty of walking in. But it's to your point about the difference. It's changed a lot in that it's become much more of a media controlled marketing event.
Yes.
They're all like WVC, VMX. They've all rebranded. They've all focused on continuous year-round CE. It's not just a conference anymore. It's much more of a big event. So I wish we could go back to the slower days. I used to have time to sit in the back of CE. Nowadays, like I said before, I think I spent 20 minutes on the conference floor this time. I just didn't have any time because
there's
I was
like a frenzy at some of them where you're like, I gotta be here, and like the next lecture is over there, but it's 10 minutes, and I go to hit the exhibit hall, and there's only like it's kind of overwhelming, like it, which is which is nice to be a small one sometimes.
They start early,
You
right?
just you can't hit the exhibit hall. You have to like plan, like on Saturday from 9 to 1 is my exhibit hall time. And from all other times I will be in meetings or go to lectures.
You can't wander it. You should go with a plan. I used to get
You have to have
frustrated.
a plan.
right.
Early in my career, some people would come along, some people new to the company would go to learn the market by going to the trade show floor. Like if you want to wander that floor, you're going to get lost. You're not going to learn.
Are you going to go in circles?
Yeah.
What I noticed, like if I just go straight, eventually I'm just going in a circle, and I don't know how that happened, right? Like I feel like the floor planning also, it's a little bit wonky because we're getting these buildings in there now. Like
they break up the aisleway with a big building at the end of an aisleway, and you've got to go around it. So you end up doing
where do I go?
Right.
Yeah.
So
and unfortunately, some of the most interesting exhibits are the ones that are kind of tucked away in the back left corner. They have the tiny table because they're new and they can't really afford the big flashy thing. And so you really have to look. Like at AVMA, I came across a few new organizations I had never heard of before. One was for farm animal welfare. Another one was, the WVA advertising their next conference in Japan. I'm like, yeah, I'm interested in that. But they're just in a tiny table tucked away. So you really have to look to see who the new players are.
That's right.
That's true. Like going back to the planning, like I found myself thinking like next time I should plan this 6 months in advance, like what companies I want to talk to, what people I want to meet, because I kind of went without a plan thinking that plans would happen there. But I realized that people had days booked of meetings and talking to this person, talking to that person. I have a dinner, I have this, I have that. And I'm like, wow, okay, this is like not just going to class. This is like crazy, Chris, that was your first one, right? Your first veterinary conference?
My first veterinary
what was your impression?
conference.
You've been to other conferences though,
so
right?
I've been to other ones that are very large, but a lot of times, so this is the first one that I've gone to in a very long time where I was actually able to walk around. Oftentimes I'm working a booth. I'm like the dreaded sales guy. And I try to keep it a little more entertaining than handing out pens. We used to bring Nerf guns, and we'd start Nerf fights with the people across the aisleway with us, because after the first day, it gets a little long.
That sounds fun.
We actually had a good time. We would set up targets, and people would stop in, and they'd win a pen or something for shooting the targets. But one of the things that was really noticeable, you mentioned your feet. So when you're working a booth, they have double padding. Right. When you're walking in the aisleway, you're essentially just walking on concrete with a thin layer of Berber carpeting. And so my feet were sore for sure. I don't know how many steps I did, but it was a lot. And then, so I didn't really plan. It was just kind of last minute. I'm like, okay, I can make this work. My really only intent was to meet everyone from FlareVet that was going to be there. I didn't book any meetings. I didn't have anything set up for like dinners or anything like that. So it was just wide open schedule. And so to Sammy's point about the people that are tucked in and kind of hard to find, like if you don't walk outside of the main aisles into those tucked in areas, you could miss them. But those were some of the best meetings I had. Like just having the time, being able to talk to them, it was uninterrupted. And there's some really cool technology coming to VetMed. So I had numerous discussions with PIMS, with some imaging people, and there's just some cool technology that's coming out. It's AI infused. And so I really enjoyed those discussions. I had no intentions or plans of meeting with them. But as we got there and we started talking about the technology, I found it was great. But yeah, there is. So, and there's one other thing I want to mention. I mentioned it before we got on the staff. And the other thing that this is very foreign to me are the people that are pulling wagons behind them and collecting swag. Like, so usually the conferences that I would normally go to are like grown-up trade shows and conferences, right? Like it's just, people are like, they'll grab a few things for their kids, but no one's towing a wagon behind them. And the other people that were carrying 2 and 3 bags filled, I'm like, this is amazing. Like it was hard enough for me to walk through the convention center, let alone trying to lug 3 bags with me of stuff.
I see a couple of things with the swag. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I think a lot of the veterinarians going there have teams back home waiting for that stuff, right? They're
that's a good point.
For them to bring, like, hey, what do you get at the conference? So they have pens
It's
to
like,
get them, stickers.
yeah.
Like they love that stuff. You know, the staff is like you went, I don't know, like you went abroad to a different country and brought back all these like cool,
Souvenirs.
like, you know, souvenirs, right? So I see a little bit of that, right? Like where people are kind of waiting back home, like, hey, where's my swag, right? Like if you don't bring something, you know, you'll be in trouble. For the other side, they're getting creative on the bigger companies are getting creative on getting the people to do things, do quizzes, do games, and do stuff as a big advertisement moment. Sometimes they even provide CE points, right? Or in hours. Well, while you're in their booth and they're getting all these like bombardment of advertisements. So in part, I think the vets want to get this stuff for their teams and themselves, and also the companies are noticing a way to drag people into their booths and
Mhm.
you know provide better swag in terms of like you get a book or you get you know this a chance to win an iPad and stuff like that, right? So I think that desire to just accumulate swag is kind of fed by the companies and kind of stimulated by that,
I
but
agree with
also
that.
the teams back home like wanting this stuff. You know, I don't
Well,
know.
there's a
Um,
lot of intentionality
yeah,
about that. Right? We in the industry we talk about we call them tchotchkes, right? What are we going to provide them? And over time, we've been trying to be more mindful of single-use items like throwaway items and garbage, as I would call it. So you know, these people pulling back sometimes it's junk, right? And I think we have to talk briefly about Bill mentioned in his summary on LinkedIn about the booth that had a mysterious door and people were just lining up.
Right.
We're creating this demand. They're creating a lot of this demand. Some people are doing really cool things like AI portraits of your pet. But people are standing in line for hours and sometimes just to get these things, which is.
But how much of this stuff are you guys using? Or how much of it sits and collects dust?
A pen gets used, maybe.
Right.
One,
Yeah.
but not 10.
Yeah,
Right.
right. And all the material that is printed and all that paper. I mean, we're creating a lot of waste with that. I get your point, Sam.
Oh,
you know.
the paper and the folders that had more paper inside of them, like bringing that. You know, I can understand that certain people, you know, take it back to the team. You're going to educate them on it, but like seriously, like a placard or a postcard with a QR code could be just as effective instead of 6 pieces or 8 pieces of thick cardboard paper.
Yeah.
It's
especially
aggressive marketing.
Go ahead,
like,
Greg.
It's a huge turnoff for me when a booth is like way in your face. I know a lot of people like it. They see mystery door. They go, I got to know. I'll wait for all day to find out what's behind that. But for me, I'm like, it has the opposite effect for me. Maybe I'm just built that way. But I like the booths that they're not super aggressive and they're just kind of sitting there and they're. A lot of times especially if they have a new product or something like that, I want to see like the study that they've done and invest in research. And it's really rare to see that. And I have mixed feelings about it because I'm like, we're a science-based profession, but this feels more like the island in Pinocchio that all the boys go to and they're like smoking cigars and gambling and they're like, wee, wee, wee. And I'm like, oh, I end up in the belly of a whale called Mars, Candy Company Inc. or something here. Like we should be a little bit more intentional about this, and it's fine to have fun, but it does feel over indexed a lot on the craziness aspect on the exhibit hall, at least.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like the number of stickers, for example, I feel like stickers are all the rage these days at the exhibit hall.
I'd agree with that.
The number of stickers I collected at AVMA convention, which are now sitting on the floor of my closet collecting dust. I just told my cleaner, please throw that all away. And I am someone who hates waste. But like, what are you supposed to do in a culture that's so fixated on consumerism? Because if you're the unsexy booth that just has QR codes, nobody's going there. So they know what they're doing. These people, advertising is psychology, right? Like these people know what they're doing.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I agree. What are you supposed to do then? Because it is super wasteful.
I can answer that question. One of the most memorable booths that I went to, I can't even tell you which one it was, but it was a big one.
Strong memory.
But if
I did a great job.
If I were in the medical side of vet med, I would have probably spent more time there, but I wasn't. And I'm not, but they had a mentalist out front who was doing tricks and he was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant. I was there with Denny, and Denny and I stood there, and he did a cup trick where you couldn't find the balls, and then all of a sudden he lifted it up, and there was a baseball. Like, we're not talking like a small little Nerf ball that you can hide in the palm of your hand. It's like he had all the cups up, he put them down, and then he handed people books, and he's like, open it up to any page, pick a word out of it, and I'll tell you what it is. And he got it correct out of all three people that picked a word. Yeah. So
that's so cool.
It would have, I was moving on to go to a technology demo, so I couldn't spend time, but had I been in the medicine side of vet med, and had I not had something booked, I would have went in to find out what that was. Because someone was very purposeful and very mindful about getting attention in a very positive manner. And the gentleman's based out of Florida, and apparently he goes to, this is what he does. He goes to multiple trade shows. He's probably early 60s, but he's just a lovely gentleman, and he's very outgoing. He brings people in, and he jokes about it while he's doing it. And then he draws people's attention to go into the booth when they're done.
That's a skill.
So it's a very good skill, but also it's not like, there's nothing wasteful about it. Like, and
it's
I don't
experiential.
Yeah.
Right.
Over material.
Yeah.
Right. And I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah. I like, experience is better. It's more memorable for people. It's, it's not overwhelming. I think that those are great. It's harder to do, right? Like, you have to only be one-on-one, right? It really takes investment. It takes a ton of talent to have somebody that's there doing that. But yeah, that connects way more. And if you can tie it into veterinary medicine and the whole experience, I think that's a total rich territory.
I've been involved in booth setup, and I'm not a marketer by trade, but the amount of time and money that goes into getting these ready, it's just huge.
Yeah.
They're events. And actually, I wanted to relate another story where on the day after the trade show, for me at least, I went to visit a local customer in Orlando, and I asked her if she was made it to the trade show yet. And she said, no, that one, even though it's in my neighborhood, is way too big. She goes to a VMX. They do these side events. She was going to Palm Beach. She was leaving Orlando to go to a VMX side event. And I think more and more people are going to be finding these smaller events and the online events to be more attractive so you don't get the overwhelm that.
That's what I noticed. And I did a quick post on LinkedIn about it, my perspective on the show or the conference. And a lot of the comments were people saying, I enjoy small conferences. I feel like it's more intimate. I learn more. I can focus on learning. I guess it really depends on your expectation of the experience and what you make it out of it, or what you make out of it. If you go there for a certain purpose, you have a plan. No matter what conference you go to, if you have a plan and a purpose, and that conference fits that plan and that purpose, I think it's a good fit. But I just feel like veterinarians shouldn't go to big conferences like VMX thinking they're going to come back home with all this new knowledge and all these new perils and all this new stuff they can bring to their, colleagues to kind of advance the medicine of it. So maybe if you're starting your clinic and you're trying to see what's out there, what products, maybe make connections, maybe that's a better conference for you to go than a small one. I just got that impression this year.
It's true. You have to identify what your intention is for attending the conference. So if you're trying to build a national platform like FlareVet, and you need the marketing, or you're looking for, trying to see what the different products are, and it's less of an educational event, something like VMX versus a smaller conference, maybe local, maybe hosted by your VMA, that's really more education focused.
Yeah. Agreed.
And that's what I like about our group. Like we have a few people, we can all do all those things in our separate times and combine that knowledge together, right? Because for me, I feel really obligated because somebody else is paying for the conference to get some CE, bring back some products, and we have like Dave in the product development and pretty much networking, that can advance our project as well. So having a few people in this project actually kind of helps be able to do all of it, right?
There's more and more of these niche conferences too. Sammy was mentioning the leadership one. My favorite one of the year that I went to is the Veterinary Innovation Summit. That's one where there are a handful of veterinarians. Most people there are innovators or technical folks doing just as much networking, but also they bring in keynote speakers from human health, from other areas. And so you get these different perspectives that I wouldn't get at a veterinary conference because it's so focused on medical education, which is great. But in the Veterinary Innovation Summit, it's really more attuned to people like me who are saying, well, what is AI going to do next? And you're really focusing more on what people could build rather than you're not selling to anyone at that show. You're just generating ideas. So it's a very niche concept. I think you would all love it, by the way. But it's very niche. And you don't go there for CE. You go there.
Yeah. I think the AVMA also has a financial summit now. Someone correct me if I'm mistaken. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's super interesting. But again, more for education then.
Yeah, right. You're going there to learn something very specific. And in fact, at that conference, 2 veterinarians I sat with at lunch, I remarked on the fact there weren't many veterinarians there. They were truly there to build a practice. They were truly there to learn because they had a vision for what they wanted to do. They were there to get inspired by other people. So as they built their practice, they weren't looking to buy what software. They were looking to see what software to build, which is a paradigm shift. And I don't think you get that energy at a big conference like VMX or Western Vet. You get that in small environments.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if you agree, Greg, but like sometimes when I walk through these floors, I see all these people dressed as salesmen. You know, veterinarians dressed with a hoodie and jeans, and then you walk through these halls like with all these, suits and all these like perfectly made hairs and like, these ladies that look like supermodels, and you're like I don't know that I feel comfortable here. Like, do you get that feeling sometimes when you go to the expo hall, you just want to run away?
Totally. Yeah. No, I think having people who have spent time on the floor of veterinary clinics, worked in the back or the treatment area, like kind of know the real deal. That's who I like talking to, right? Because they know, hey, there's glitz and glamour, but there's also, what do you do when, the anal gland juice is flying everywhere, right? Like it's much more about, let's be practical, let's be real, right? Because anybody can come with this fancy product or marketing team, but we really want stuff that like actually impacts not only the people that are working there, right? Like that's who I care about. That's who I want to be writing to, speaking to, drawing cartoons for. But like that will improve the animal health, is really connecting with those people. There's a lot of like, marketing unfortunately gets a bad reputation for misleading and lying, and some of it deserves, some of it not. But it's really about like the trustworthiness is huge. And I hate when we as veterinarians kind of incorporate some of that misleading stuff into our own communication with clients, right? Because I feel like historically our trust levels have been really high with clients, but there's this trend where it's sort of like we're slipping, right? People are complaining more and more about their veterinarian. Selling saying trust is going down. And I'm like, no, we need to maintain that. We need to hold on to that. So when I go into the exhibit floor and I'm like, ooh, they're selling hard. Let's cut through all this because really, why are we here? Like nobody's, the people that have gone into veterinary medicine have gone into it for one reason only, is because they care about animals and they want to help. They're not there in order to make money. There's a lot of money now, and there's becoming more and more products to sell and ways to make money, and that's okay, and that's good, and that's a way to have a sustainable practice. But really, what we want to be trustworthy people who are taking care of animals. We don't want to be salespeople. We don't want to be picking that up just from the ether. So yeah, I agree. I start panicking as soon as I get in the convention hall. Actually, when I saw Dave, I was having a existential crisis. I was having a bad time. Anyway, but I got there and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna start running around like Jerry Maguire and just start like knocking stuff off the exhibit halls. And I saw Dave and he was like, hey, and then we hugged.
Yeah.
I would love to see you crawl around the booths and just knocking signs down and pushing people. That would have been awesome. Yeah, but
just losing it.
Thank you for saving his life, Dave.
I mean, people think I'm an extrovert, but I'm not. I just like my friends. And when I see people I like, I get excited. and I sometimes forget to ask for permission to hug with Greg.
It was good.
Hey,
Yeah, so that's how I felt. I felt a little more comfortable, like away from the expo hall, right? Like,
Yeah, definitely.
like in there, I felt like I don't know, like just there's too much.
It's
too much going on,
overwhelming.
too much energy,
I
very
did-
overwhelming. And if you don't have a plan, then you don't really know where to go.
I did 2 walking meetings with people, like colleagues, and they were great for 5 minutes, and then we started getting distracted by other things because there's so much going on. So it is easy to get lost in those conferences for sure.
Yeah.
So
Now,
can I touch
Yeah,
on
go ahead,
something that Greg said about the medical side of sometimes it gets lost. I had a really cool experience, and Bill's not here because I wish he were, because Bill's the one who kind of coordinated everything. But someone was talking about using AI to review ultrasound images.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill's like, I want to learn more about this. And they're like, well, we can show it to you if, we had a specimen and everything. So Bill's like, oh, just hang on. And off goes Bill, like on a mission. It was unbelievable. He found a dog. He found an ultrasound machine. He wheeled a table over from the other side of the convention hall that was like a medical table. I'm not kidding you. And then the technician, when Bill's doing ultrasound and he's having difficulties getting images, he calls a number and he gets like tech support to give him some assistance with it. And the lady who was on the other end of the phone, typically helping Bill, was at the convention and came over and assisted him with it. So we got to watch this new technology. Like Bill pulled all this together in like an hour and basically got all the tools required to make this happen and do a live demo of some really cool new tech that's coming out. And it's just like, Bill's like, I don't know where else on the planet we could pull this together and make it happen that quickly unless being in a hospital.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
It's actually, that reminds me of something too, that the Greg's talking about the artificial nature of this. And in product, I've always wanted to do the Pepsi challenge, right? Can you break your product at the test in the moment and can actually do what it's supposed to do? And one of my friends created this new software called Vet Software Hub, which is challenging software providers to actually make their software relevant in their demos, make it actually real, because trade shows are artificial and they talk in marketing blurbs. And I think what you just talked about, Chris, is that idea of the Pepsi challenge. Like, let's show you it works. Let's show you it works now. The taste test, not just the select marketing brochure. And of course, only Bill could have corralled that together. That's a pretty interesting story.
That's great.
It's good that it wasn't a pre-made demo. It's a real demo, right? It's not like the demos you actually get at the booth where it's like a recorded demo and it's like, okay, thank you. That was
the lady whose dog he found actually had a heart condition. So so they knew about it. No, she knew about it. She was a veterinarian, and her and her husband owned a practice. They knew about it, but the good thing is that they could use the ultrasound machine to go in, get the image that they need, and then see if the AI could test it and find it, and it did. So it was just really interesting. But to your point, like leave it up to Bill, right? Only Bill could run around a trade show and pull it all together.
As he's coughing and sneezing and like almost dying of some weird disease that he gave the whole city of Orlando, and even Mickey Mouse is sick, I think.
I didn't get sick, surprisingly. I spent a lot of time with him and I did not get sick, fortunately. And I came home, my wife was just as sick as Bill was. And
so
I'm going to get sick, but I didn't, knock on wood.
Maybe it's a long incubation, knock on wood. But Sam, I have a question for you. Before these big events, when you're planning, how do you plan? Are you putting spreadsheets together? How are you planning for how you're going to tackle a show?
It's hard. If you can find the schedules in advance for the lectures, which now like AVMA has an app, I think NAPC or VMX has an app, so you can try to see which lectures you want to go to. You can look for search by specific speakers, or if there's someone that you're just curious about meeting up with, you can see if they're in attendance at the event. So I typically make a list of all of those, and then I'll contact people in advance that I want to meet up with and try to make a schedule of that. And if there are any specific like policy meetings I want to attend, I tend to prioritize those. And then I'll look through the exhibit hall kind of last, but I'll chunk out a time where I need to go to that. And then I just try to maximize CE around that. So I'm the one that's like also going to the lunch lectures and stuff, just trying to get all my hours basically done at once if I'm at one of those bigger conferences.
Are you starting planning months ahead or days ahead?
Days ahead.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah, it's the only reality
Yeah.
you can do too.
You have to. I've noticed that more and more as they get bigger. You have to plan every single day, morning, afternoon, everything you're doing. I want to kind of double down on that because, we go by an honor system, and you mentioned the app, Sammy, where, you have all the CE in the app, and then you basically mark where you went, and you get the credit for that lecture because you marked that you went. I feel like it used to be where they scan your badge and then it goes on your that you were there, right? And I think with the live stream thing now and other ways to actually join the same lectures, they cannot hold it down to scanning you. So I feel like in a way it's up to us to really be responsible and get the education that we're paying for. First of all, it's really expensive to go to a conference, and I just it made me kind of upset to see so many people all day long in the expo hall, and the lecture rooms were empty. I mean, I think maybe, I don't know, the one of the talks I went that was the most full was maybe 2/3 of the room. I've gone to conferences where you have to stand to be in a lecture, right? There's no chairs, that's how it used to be, and it kind of made me wonder, like, are these people in the expo hall marking that they got all these CE hours? Like, how is that impacting our patients too down the road, right? We're getting veterinarians in lines to get swag instead of going to lectures, and it's kind of, I encourage people that if they go to these talks to actually do the lectures and bring some knowledge back home. There's always a way to have a balance with everything that's going on, but I think for our patients, we need to really attend these lectures.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
you
know.
have a good point, John. And CE could also be an adjacent topic to the conference chat, because that's a whole nother discussion. It's a total mess, to be completely honest. You can get CE all over the place. There are different accreditation systems. How do you figure out which CE to go to? How do you prioritize that? And like you say, it's the honor system. You could say, I went to all these lectures and have gone to none of them.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's so variable too. Like you can go to these amazing talks. There's dynamic speakers that can translate something in a 50-minute lecture that's opening, changes the way you practice, and it's fun, right? Like that's the fun part of learning. Or you can go to something that's like somebody threw together, it's all bogus, you go to these CE dinners and they're serving drinks and people are just chatting in the background. It's like, that counts as an hour, but like reading a journal for a whole year also counts as an hour. Like this makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think like, and I put together CE, like I've pitched CE lectures. I talk at these conferences and stuff, and they do have, there are CE approval boards that look at these things and they try to get approval, but it's really, really variable. And we've probably all had the experience of like, seeing a title that looks good, about it, going and sitting down in the lecture, and then the speaker starts talking and you're like, oh crap.
Yep.
Like this is so boring. It's so terrible. It's it's hard to get through.
They make the title sound real fun, and then you're hearing about PDAs and puppies again for the thousandth time in your career.
And
so I get that.
As you've been around, though, you can sort of start to get to know the different lecturers, right? So I know anytime Dawn Booth from Auburn is giving any kind of chat on pharmacology, I'm there and the room is completely full and I'm hanging on to every word, because she's so smart and you always come away with so much. So as well as the anesthesia and analgesia from Ohio State, I think she's also really good. So every time you go to one of those lectures, you're coming along with a lot of information. You can kind of predict if the room is going to be packed or not, just based on who's giving the talk. But indeed, as these conferences grow and grow and you have more and more new speakers as well, it's hard. But I think that takes years. So you sort of build up your list of people that and you respect, and hopefully they don't retire for a while.
Yeah.
True. I tend to go to the academic side of lectures, and it's funny. I was towards the end of the day, I would feel like when I went to the actual rooms, there was so much coughing and sneezing and weird noises that came somewhere from their airway. People around me, I don't even have any idea where it came from. Hopefully not the back end. But it was so I was so nervous to get sick. I actually did one of the talks that are more towards the evening, and I don't know. I had mixed feelings. It was like a panel, and they were kind of talking like they were out at the bar drinking, like they were using all these like lingo and like anal gland juicy, and it was like an actual talk, and I'm like, wait. This is maybe what the younger generations are wanting to listen to. Maybe it's because it's towards the end of the day. But I don't know. It felt kind of silly. It felt like I don't know that I'm really getting educated here more than having a fun time. And I understand the mix of the two, but I don't know if you guys have ever attended or listened to one of these panels where it just feels kind of like a little less formal, but a little too informal. I don't know. Just my opinion.
It seems like the level of intellect has gone down. I appreciate the more open and kind of inclusive communication style, but I do agree. I feel like sometimes it's a bit too much, not the other way.
Yeah, you want to.
Have you seen those, Greg?
Yeah, I've presented many of those. I have a very informal lecture style. No, it's you want to get value out of what you're there for, right? So people will be off put by a particular use of language or the way that stuff's presented. But I think there's different levels, right? And veterinary audiences are really hard to talk to because you do have some people that are like, I want the highest level, they're the gunners. They want the highest level. They want to go way deep into the pharmacology and all of that. And you got people that have, graduated in the Stone Age and they're like, keep it simple, so it's really hard to talk to that group of people because they're just very diverse. They're very opinionated. They all think they're the smartest person in the room. Right. And so I find that tricky, but if there's been a lot of thought put into it, then that's great. I think panels sometimes are tricky because maybe some people just show up and they're just like, oh, I'll just put on a show. And maybe you're not finding value in that. But I think there's a balance of information, practical information, and not droning on and being boring and it's variable, right? Not everyone that gives talks takes that as seriously, right? Some of them they're academics and they're really smart and they know what they're talking about, but they're not presenting it necessarily in the most comprehensible way. But it's again, the variability that you find in these talks is just all over the map. And I went to one at AVMA. I like AVMA because it's there. You see everything. To me, it's like being in vet school again, where you're like I went to a talk about camelids, and I don't practice them. It's interesting and it's fun and I like that. And then you meet these weird camelid people. And then I went to a talk on, I usually hit a couple of like the One Health talks as well. And I went to one by a chimp researcher who had been somewhere in West Africa studying chimps. And she was great, but also she might have picked up like a brainworm or something. She was so out there and bizarre. And the last 20 minutes of her talk, she just played a video of her like pretending she was a chimp out in the wild and the chimps were on the path and she was like,
oh my god.
And then she had the song Toto's Africa just playing on repeat. And it was 20 minutes of this. And I was like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
It sounds like a friend of yours.
It wasn't being funny. It was like a real thing.
But completely earnest, 100%. This is And she was brilliant. Like she's a chimp veterinarian. It was great.
I guess it comes with this like being vulnerable thing now, like the trend of being vulnerable, being yourself, being honest. sometimes can be tricky.
Yeah, that's funny. That's something that gets ironically over marketed. Be vulnerable, and then people are like telling these like cringy stories, and you're like, oh my god, give me a break.
Right.
Is that a slightly different topic? The VMX ends. We take a couple weeks off in the industry, and then you get ready to go to Western. And I'm glad not to be going to Western this year because it's kind of the same. But so much energy is built up for these first 2 trade shows that by the time you're done with February, you're just exhausted, and you've just gotten started. And I think it's one of the reasons why I'm attracted to the smaller shows, the summer shows. I don't see as many people I know, but I feel like I learn more, get a lot more accomplished. I'm not quite so busy at those shows. They're nicer, and they're not so anticipated and so huge, right?
So and along those lines, I kind of want to. My thoughts are that with so much technology we have now, and the knowledge being out there, the people having access to it as well. Are we gonna go to a trend of less in person, more virtual, live stream type CE? I guess the people that benefit the most out of these in-person conferences are actually the companies selling stuff. I feel like the actual learning, the knowledge can always be done online.
I don't know the stats, but I'm pretty sure the majority of CE is done online now for vets. I think most of your hours are virtual. You go in person to, well, not to sound cynical, but sometimes you go to Orlando or to Vegas to see your peers, but you also go in part for the vacation. Or we used to love cloudy, rainy days in Orlando because it meant the trade show floor would be busy. Because it was sunny out, people were going to be taking a hooky day to go off for. So I think a lot of it already is virtual.
You guys think that's going to be a trend? Like, should like conference or CE companies should start thinking maybe more, trying to go more the digital and live stream conference type way, or do you feel like it's still worth having people travel and travel all these miles to come to a conference room even though they could have seen it on their app at home?
I think if it's strictly on an education basis, most of that learning happens online, and definitely is easiest because there are no distractions. You're just sitting down for 8 hours staring at the screen, taking notes. You can even interact. We had Anthony Chadwick on here with the webinar vet. I've done some CE with him. And in 2020, we hosted the WVA Congress completely online. That was the first time I did a fully online conference. And you definitely get more out of it from a material standpoint, but you lose the human component, right? You're not networking with anybody. You're not in the exhibit hall. You're not advancing your career as much. There are less opportunities to be found when you're just sitting in a virtual classroom.
So the community building is always going to bring people back, I think.
I think so. Probably one of those per year where we'll all meet up and, you'll talk to these different organizations and you'll do all your networking. But from an education standpoint, I think it's honestly best online.
Yeah, interesting. I agree. I think you can get a great lecture online. You can ask questions. You can be interactive, but there's something to the experience that's really has to be physical and embodied. And it's not just learning education. You could do that with books. I mean, you don't have to have somebody lecture to you. Obviously, it's helpful and it saves time. But I think the community aspect of it is really important, and that was totally confirmed this summer at AVMA when I met a bunch of people that I had only met online, and those are real people now. And you just you can only get so much of the nonverbal stuff through a screen, and nobody I know is like, I would love to stare at more screens. Everyone's like, please, how do I not stare at screens so much? So I think live conferences are still a draw and still great and a lot of fun.
I agree. I think that's probably one of the biggest values of these big conferences is that, you interact with all these people all year long. You've probably never met them in person online, and you read their stuff. You kind of start enjoying what they do. You feel like they're your friends. And I guess these places kind of bring that opportunity to actually sit down and have that human connection that I think it's really important for our profession. I think it helps us kind of feel each other a little better. And I think Dave is really big on this. Like when you actually meet a person in person, there's a different energy. You can read their energy better. You can kind of trust that person better. So the bridge that you build online, I feel like can go so far until you meet that person in person. Kind of, okay, everything I thought about this person is true. I kind of see it now. So I can see that value in that part of it.
Yeah, and I think we have to recognize, well, two things. One, I'm a consultant, right? I work with my clients, and when I have a client that I'm 100% virtual with, I have a lot harder time relating to the teams and understanding who they are. To Greg's point, you meet them one time, they become real, and my whole process working with them is different because I actually know them. That they're not just an icon. But the other important thing about just learning styles is to remember that many people learn differently too. So I know, like in the Zoom world in corporate, there are quiet people who never ask a question. But when you go to an event, you go see an event, at the end, there's invariably 4 or 5 people waiting in line to talk to the speaker. They're probably the quiet person who didn't want to speak up and didn't want to ask the question in front of everyone. That type of thing's completely lost in a virtual world. You get just a different flavor. Just like some people like to listen to books and people like to read books. I think it's important to probably keep that variety. Even if it's going to be all virtual CE, we'd have to vary how we do it because they can't all be the same. Vanilla, that only satisfies a portion of the people.
So true.
Yeah. And that's where I think, and I guess my message here is like, if you're a veterinarian and you're looking to see what you're going to do this year for CE, think, a little bit out of the box and look at the smaller conferences too. That it doesn't mean that the bigger the conference, the better experience you're going to have, unless you're chasing a certain experience and you have, a purpose and a plan. I think there's so many different offerings, like Dave said, that it's important to do your research and kind of have a plan before going there, and kind of like Sammy said, see what speakers are going, because that really is going to make your learning, what you want it to be and things like that. So, I that's really the main points. I think we've hit most of the things I've wanted to hit today. I don't know if there's any specific questions or comments you guys have about what the conference has been to this year.
I got a couple questions for you guys. Sorry, can I jump in?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
So you're at a conference. You're at a new city. Usually, people do want to explore. My question for all you guys: how far away from the convention center will you wear your badge around your chest?
My badge is off my neck the moment I walk.
You're out the door. So okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Sammy? What about you, Sammy? Yeah.
It depends. Depends how tired I am and whether I realize it or not if it's still on. That's probably what it is.
Go to lunch with your badge around your neck outside the convention hall.
Oh, at APMA convention this year, I was on the DC Metro wearing it for an hour on my way to a friend's house. I walked in the door. I'm just like carrying all sorts of stuff, toys for her dog, badges on, everything.
I still have mine on. It's been days.
Yeah.
What about you, Chris? Right. What about you, Chris? You like showing people your badge, or you kind of like, nah, F this?
Most of the time I just forget that it's on, really. So when I realize that it's still on, I'll take it off. But essentially, if I think about it, I'm like Dave. I take it off as soon as I leave the hall, the conference hall, or whatever it is. Typically,
honestly, it's a funny question because the first thing I do, as soon as as soon as they scan it, I put it in my jacket. I do that, and that's how I walk around. And then I'm walking around the expo, then the people that let you in, they're like, hey, where's your badge? I kind of go like this and, put it back in. I don't know. I feel
here's an interesting follow-up question.
This like that. Yeah.
Here's an interesting follow-up question, because yours says veterinarian on the bottom. I wonder who gets harassed more, like the veterinarian, the practice manager, the support staff, like the veterinary nurse, like all of the different, like it's got a different name at the bottom. I wonder who gets approached more by the people with booths. It'd be a curious study to find out.
But like for me, I had an experience where I went to Mexico on a cruise, and it kind of felt that way where people were like, hey, doc, hey, come here. Hey, doctor. And they look, hey, Dr. Gonzalez, come over here. And he's like, I don't want to talk right now. I'm sorry. Like, let's leave me alone.
Yeah. Stuff the bed.
Like, let me just walk through. I'm actually walking through the whole, because, okay, one of the things is like to get from the south to the north, whatever, you have to go through the expo hall, right? Very smart people.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go around it. You have to go through it. And I'm
It's
like,
like the
hey, I
duty-free
just want to go
section.
through. I would tell people I'll be around. I never talked to him again, but you know, I was kind of like a little bit annoyed by it. I'm not like I'm. It's okay if I'm seeking you, but don't like yell at me like, you know, like, hey, buy this. You know, I don't like that style.
I want to amplify what Sammy said, though. It's just like the duty-free section where you can't annoyingly get through without buying something.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Strategic.
Yeah. I was telling the people like, hey, leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you. My 7-year-old kid's like, why are you being so mean, Daddy? It's like, we'll talk later. They need to respect our space, you know?
Yeah.
If you have a vendor badge, everyone ignores you. It's easy. You walk right through, breeze it through. Vendor badge, they don't care who you are.
Maybe I'll do one of those
That's
stickers
good
that goes over it.
Oh yeah, the exhibitor.
The little,
That's what I should print
then-
off for
Smart.
next year. Is I'll print off little stickers that you can put that say exhibitor, and that's
That's
what my
yeah.
swag will be to hand out those stickers.
that would be funny.
Smart.
You can be selling those. That's a good business model, Chris.
That would
$5,
be fun. Yeah.
hassle free.
That's a free exhibit message.
Any other questions, Greg or Sammy or Dave, Chris? We've covered most of what we wanted to cover, I think.
I got one more.
Okay.
Do you have a canned excuse for not talking to aggressive vendors in the expo hall? You're walking by and they're you don't make eye contact, or if you make eye contact, they like, hey, come here, let me show you. Do you have a canned excuse?
Yeah, well, mine was I'm just crossing by to the other side. I'll be around, and I would wave. That was my move.
That's pretty good. Sammy,
I
what
tell them
about
the
you
same
guys?
thing I tell the Jehovah's Witnesses on the street. No, thank you. No, thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
That's perfect. Yeah, I have trouble like saying no to people.
Like I don't understand. I have no idea what they're saying.
That's
Greg,
funny.
if you learn
can also
sign language
act blind.
for the trade show, I'm going to be impressed.
I would act blind next year, probably. Just kind of like all of a sudden I become blind. Yeah, like, you know, I just keep walking.
Bring a
I didn't even
cane.
see you.
Bring a dog.
Yeah,
there
bring a
you
little
go. Bring a
cane.
CNI dog.
Yeah.
So I got to ultrasound a dog in booth 314 right now. Bill's excuse.
That's my CNI dog. I'm sorry. All right. Well, this is really fun. I'm glad to see Sammy and Greg back. You know, we missed you guys. And we have a whole year of talks. We'll be writing on probably more LinkedIn than anywhere about what the next months will be. Next month we're gonna have Bob Murto. We're gonna talk about the veterinary practitioner associate position, and I think we're gonna have some real nice talks this year. So I'm glad we're still doing this. I'm glad you guys are so supportive of this whole FlareVet thing, and I'm very optimistic for this new year. I know we've all been through personal stuff, crazy months, and I think we're ready to just kind of move on and start experiencing this new year that there's so much room to have really good talks and conversations and good experiences in life. And this is part of why I like doing this podcast, because you guys are here. So I appreciate you. And Bill, I don't know what happened with Bill. We'll have to
Hopefully
he's
everything's
alive,
okay.
and I hope he didn't succumb to his disease.
Thanks, John.
So anyway,
Yeah, thanks everyone. Great to see everyone.
yeah, thanks for being here. We'll see you next month. And yeah, I really appreciate you guys a lot, and we'll see you next month.
All right, bye all.
Take care, guys.
All right, see you.